Hello. You're going to get some traffic noise and a little bit of air conditioning because it is hot up in here. Welcome to Who's Your Caddy, a weekly PGA DFS golf show. There are plenty of shows out there, plenty of tools, plenty of articles, but we're so grateful to have you tune in here for our advice. Thank you. This isn't your typical DFS show where we go through all of the tiers one by one and give you somebody from every price range. We just try and build you a nice solid core that will work with some of your other favorite players, weigh out what we expect to see from the course itself, and maybe share a little news here and there in between. Anyway, let's get this party started, I guess. And we're back. This week, we are not talking about that big, huge tournament that everybody else is talking about. We are talking about the Barracuda Championship. Bet you weren't expecting that. Maybe you were, because we shared about it. Actually, we've really enjoyed talking about these alternate events, and it seems like they generate a little bit more traction than when we stick to the mainstream event. So why not do it again this week? But before I get too deep, let me bring in my favorite other person in DFS. And actually, maybe even on all of Twitter. Mr. Hallas. Adam.
That's a lot of pressure.
No one is really playing the Barracuda.
Yeah, it's just a figment of our imagination.
No. This is actually a fun field.
It is a fun field. And when we go through our picks, there'll be some fun explanations.
Some fun explanations. Okay. Last week, I don't know. I just could not put together a solid lineup to save my life. 2 of my 3 cores made the cut. Actually, I gave out 4 names. Let me just say that. I gave out 4 names. 2 of the 4 made the cut. Pendrith coming in 6th. Sorry, again, traffic. Pendrith coming in 6th, and Gligic making the cut. Bare minimums. Streelman, O'Hare. Ouch, 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 ouch. Ugh. But, Adam.
Yeah.
It's been kind of like this weird running, I don't know if it's a running joke, but how I had built my FSGA experts team around the Masters and then killed it that week and then struggle bust for about 6 to 8 weeks. I have fought myself way back from last, I think it's 12th to 7th, 6th or 7th now.
Well, that's awesome.
So I need to start betting on what I'm going to start calling team mediocrity.
Hey, 7th is not mediocre.
All the players on my roster are like the guys that will probably make the cut. And sometimes that's all that matters.
Well, then you probably have a lot of leverage of people that are flying underneath the radar.
That's true. And then I'm like, oh, shit. Only this 5-6 guys are even playing this week. Hope they make the cut.
Yeah.
No bench because they're off playing in a bigger tournament. You know, how was your last week?
I was doing fine until Sunday. Sunday proved a little windy for my guys, and one of them was Hoglan, and he just kind of, well, that's the Scottish Open. On the bar stall, Chad Ramey, James Hahn, and Lucas Glover and Justin Lower. 75% of them did well. James Hahn did not. He kind of flaked out towards the cut day. Lucas Glover, though, he was up towards the top for most of the week, and Chad Ramey kind of was up there a little bit and then going to flutter down. And Justin Lower was middleman.
Yeah, I have Ramey. Ramey's one of my guys on the fantasy league. So that was good.
Yeah.
Good.
So, I mean, it did all right. And for a while, I was like, oh, I'm not doing too bad. This is great. And then Sunday was turned around. I was like, what the hell happened? So
I know how that feels on cut day.
well, there's cut day and there's moving day, and moving day proved horrible.
Oh, goodness. Well, this week I actually feel a lot better about the field. I feel like it's not as unpredictable. I don't know if unpredictable is the right word. It feels more comfortable. I feel more comfortable with this field than last week's.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I just do. But we're going to Tahoe Mountain Club's Greenwood course. So that's one of the tracks there at Tahoe Mountain Club. Greenwood course in Truckee, California. I'm currently in California for work, and it has been hot for California.
But aren't you on the southern side of California?
Yes, I am. And the humidity here has actually been much higher. So I checked the humidity there, and it was like 40 to 50% throughout the week. 40 to 50% humidity in the low 90s is still pretty nasty.
It is a little nasty, but you got that nice, cool mountain air to keep you cool.
That's what they say about this ocean air, but it just makes me sweat.
So I don't think it's going to be anything like extravagant, but it is something to keep in mind.
I don't know. It's just yucky. I think the spectators will hate it more than the players.
I mean, it's a pretty course. I don't know how you can hate just being around there.
That's true. It is pretty. All right, fine. I'm just being a party pooper because I'm hot and sweaty. But looking at course fit, this actually seems to be a pretty darn average PGA Tour type course when we look at what you need to play it, how it lines up against the average course. And you might see something different than me, but that's how I looked at it. And I'm like, oh, we do need a little bit more distance than the average course. And of course, approach seems to always be your friend, but extra here maybe this week. What else is standing out to you when you take a look at Tahoe Mountain Club's Old Greenwood course in Truckee, California?
First off, the name doesn't mean it's an old course. I think it's like 2 to 3 years old. Like there's not a lot of data on this course. Like Old Greenwood, it's been around for 2 years. So it is kind of I would say an average course. I would lump it into sometimes like when you play the Sony and a lot of these other like Punta Cana, like resort type courses, right? So they're nestled in these like nice, very scenic type surroundings. There's a lot of trees and there's a lot of strategically placed bunkers. So you have to your approach is going to be key, and around a green is going to be key as well. Because a lot of these greens are nestled by these bunkers, or on the left side you have a lot of water as well. So I would put scrambling into your projection models. I would put driving accuracy on here. Distance is a key, so maybe lump them in together as more of a ball striking type. But not a lot of these fairways are particularly straight. There's a lot of bend to them, so if you're going to play with someone that's able to shape their shots a bit. So yeah, that's my take on Old Greenwood. Oh, and one other thing, forgot to tell you, it is a bit of a different tournament format this week. And not to say that it's like a match play or anything like that. It is a co-sanctioned event, so that's why you're seeing a little bit mix of two different players or two different groups of players. So you have the PGA and the DP World Tour coming together. And this particular tournament has modified stable forward scoring, which means if you looked at last year's leaderboard and you saw a plus 46, you're like, what the fuck? It means really the scoring format is a awarded points format. So like you get 8 points for an albatross, you get 5 points for an eagle, 2 points for a birdie. So anything under par, you get a point. So it's slightly different.
I actually don't think I even knew that.
So I mean, when you start looking at like, if you were to put some math into it, obviously, if it's this type of scoring format, you want to look at birdie or better percentage, right? Getting par is not going to be, a thing that's going to help you out. Now, granted, I think +4 or +5 ended up being the cut, which is, I think, a couple, probably -3, depending on how they award those points, trying to look at it for, a birdie sense or a par sense. But given the scoring format, you might want to weight birdie or better percentages, one of your only things that you're looking at.
That's really good to know. I think the only thing I didn't really necessarily put a whole bunch of thought into would be the scrambling, but I'm still feeling pretty confident in my picks.
Yeah, like I said, it is a somewhat average course, but they do have a lot of like native, quote unquote, native area that they've on a couple of par threes where they bunched it up on the front side of the green.
Yeah.
So there's like a bunker here, and then you have some native area over here, and really the only clear landing spots off to the left side of the green. So they've done a little bit of that. So if you're not accurate either off the tee or on your approach shot and you miss the green, you could be scrambling out of that type of stuff.
Could be scrambling a little bit. All right. I might have to take a peek while we're chit-chatting, but I feel pretty good still. Yeah. I mean, let's just really get into it here because people are here for picks. We're going to give our 3 favorite core picks. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I always go first. You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I was feeling like my picks weren't super original this week. Like maybe they're sort of chalky, but it's kind of hard to be chalky in a field like this, honestly. But I'm going to go with Akshay Bhatia, a little 21-year-old youngin', still on his temporary pass, hanging out on tour. He placed 9th last week. And I know when I was that age and you come off of a win of anything, you feel good about it. So I feel like he's going to go in to this on a bit of a high. His course stats, skill set is actually pretty well matched for this course. Not terrible, not perfect. I actually like it. I like this pick. Stefan Jägermeister. I don't want to jinx him because he's been on a streak, so I'm not even going to tell what streak it's been, but he's been on fire. And he placed 22nd here last year, which is very respectable, especially when you're having a really great season there's no reason why he wouldn't do better this year, other than if he just doesn't like this scoring format after having a great season so far. But we'll see. My last one, Taylor Pendrith. I say it in my notes that he's our favorite Canadian, but man, I love me some Canadians. I don't know if he's my favorite, but he is one of them. And that really long drive of his is not always necessarily been super accurate, but apparently he's been honing in on his accuracy, considering I read that he was the co-leader last week in greens and regulation. So he's doing something right out there, finishing 6th last week. We already talked about that. He's finished 11th and 13th here before. So I like it. I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good about those.
I think there's a good picks to have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think they're good picks. I think they're going to be, I won't say chalky. I think they're going to be popular picks. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because people know those names, right?
Right.
If they're not doing a lot of, for the average fan that comes into like DraftKings and stuff like that, they'll recognize the names. A lot of these names coming in from the DP World Tour, there's not a lot of data on, and so it's going to be hard to pick on some of them.
Well, Jaeger's probably like the least recognizable because there's always so many other choices when he is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I like it. I'm good. Tell us what you've got.
Well, known as popular. Grayson Sigg, he kind of did well last week. He's going to probably do well this week. I think he does pretty good on the approach. I think overall on his tee to green, he's fairly average, but in this field, he's going to be spectacular. And so that's why I picked Grayson Sigg. I think he's going to be a big fish in a little pond in this field, and I think he's going to kind of throw his weight around. So hopefully he can pull it together. And next I have Scott Piercy. And you're like, who? Cameron Piercy? Scott Piercy. Scott Piercy, in my particular model, ranked out pretty well. And with the projection of ownership, it seems like other people have picked him as well. Average driving distance about 294 yards, so he's right there. His driving accuracy is not the greatest, but his greens and regulation is above 60%, and his putting is pretty well. When it comes to tournaments between that are between average or easy to score on, he does exceptional as well. And he's been trending up. He did miss the cut at the Barbasol, but he's done okay in the RBC Canadian. He's done okay at the Charles Schwab, and he did okay at the Byron Nelson. You're going to be looking at a lot of guys that don't play consistent weekends and look for these tournaments that have thin fields so they get invited to them. So I like Scott Piercy. I think he's going to make the most of his attendance here at the field. The other person I have here is Marcus Knut, and I think he's a type of person that is going to take advantage, again, of the course and what he's doing. He came in, let me look it up. I had it just right here. He came in 14th at the Barbasol. And here's another reason I'm picking him. Driving accuracy, 60%, greens and regulation, 70% in the times he's played. Driving distance, 320 yards. So he'll make up some distance. Now the problem is putting. Anybody can drive for show. It's the putting for dough that really makes a difference. And this is where Marcus here could get us in trouble. But I'm hoping he can kind of figure his way out and work his driving magic and get closer to the green, so he doesn't have to worry about putting such long distances.
That should have been your little tagline.
What?
Driving for show, putting for dough.
Oh, yeah.
Funny. You're funny. I like those. Grayson Sig is always a fave of mine, too. I mean, just in general, randomly throughout this season, I feel like he's come up a lot. So he's one of those guys that if you do play not just daily fantasy, but regular fantasy, he's a good bench guy because, he's just there.
Mhm.
I like it. Good job, Adam. What about WTF? Who is your wild card this week? I have no idea. I need to hear more about this week's WTF pick from you.
Well, for starters, his profile pic, he's wearing a bucket hat, so 2 points for him. But my WTF is Sing Dao, and it's a name that rolls off the tip of your tongue. He's a household name and somewhere. Driving distance is 308 yards. His driving accuracy is around the 50s, but his greens and regulation is about 66%. He's played quite a bit recently, again, in these tournaments where the field is kind of thinned out because there's multiple quote-unquote PGA tournaments happening at the same time. So at the Barbasol, he came in 44th. He missed the cut at John Deere. We're going to wash that away. But he came in 17th at the Rocket Mortgage, 52nd Travelers. And so these, I would say, easier type tournaments, he does okay. Byron Nelson this year, he came in 5th. And so of the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events, he's only missed the cut twice. So I'm hoping for Mr. Dawson to do some magic.
That's very impressive. I'm going to admit that I did not spend adequate time researching a WTF this week. So I dove into my general pool and I'm like, who scares me the most? And I've come up with Keith Mitchell.
Killer Keith.
Killer Keith scares me the most. He's also like probably the most risk and reward player this week because he could win it all or he could just completely crash and burn, as could every golfer. But this is kind of his MO, and I have not played Keith Mitchell in many moons. Many moons because he terrifies me. He's terrifying. But I can't help but like him this week. I wanted to even put him in my core pick. I'm definitely going to play him, I'm sure, if he fits in with my numbers. But in some lineup, he'll be there. But he's just so dang unreliable. So, what do you call it? He's hot and he's cold. He's yes and he's no.
What is happening?
Happening.
I'll just say that his average driving distance is 314 yards and greens and regulation is 67%. So it's not bad.
Right. It's not bad.
But the one thing that could kill him, Mr. Killer Keith, he missed cut at Scottish Open. So he's flying from Scotland back to Tahoe, California, and trying to get it all together. We'll see how he does.
And he's playing under pressure.
Yeah.
He's on the bubble. So I don't know.
That's another good thing is that this is one of the few tournaments left, and the winner gets like 300 FedEx points.
Yeah.
I think the playoffs start here pretty soon. I think there's 2 or 3 events left for the FedEx Cup, and so those scrambling to try to make it up into the playoff hunt could be trying to push their way forward. So I think honestly, it's a good pick.
It's a good pick. I mean, like I said, I could have put him in the main, but it's like I don't know. I don't know, Keith Mitchell. What are you going to do this week? Show us what you're made of, sir. That's all I have. That's it.
That was it. Did you write that in a script? I don't think you wrote that into the script.
I didn't. I did not write that in my script. I went completely off script.
You went off script for the what the fucks pick. That's good. You're supposed to do that.
Do you have anything else, Adam?
No, I don't.
Me either. Thank you for tuning in this week and every week. I know a lot of you are going to catch this on the replay as you are deciding if you're even going to bet on the Barracuda Championship or not. But judging by the numbers, we seem to get pretty good traction here. So I hope that you have found some value in tuning in. Thank you so much to Club Fantasy for letting us host on your YouTube channel, and to Women of Fantasy Football for sponsoring this dream of mine, and to my co-host Adam for putting up with me every single week. Hercules. Good luck out there, everybody, and we will see you next week. I'm going to eventually find what it is I'm looking for, play the music, and end the broadcast. Okay, bye.